Well, hello there, troopers, and welcome back to General Kenobi's Bunker. Thank you so much for joining us here on a very, very special interview that we got lined up. Thanks to my man, Mike, the Dad Vader. You want to tell us a little bit about our guest tonight?
Yes, so won't go into too much details, but we got ourselves a Mandalorian coming to the show by the name of Lisa Gabe.
Absolutely.
Not sure if people know about her, but you're definitely going to learn about her tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. And she's got, a lot of stuff to tell us. It's going to be super fun. We actually got to meet her in person already, which was a delight over in Dallas, Texas, earlier this year, Rebels Comic Con, and it was great. So she's a very talented actress, stunt performer, model. I mean, you name it.
Just all
She
around
has
good
done it
person.
all. Exactly. And if that wasn't enough, she's got her own action figure, which is a freaking win in my book. All right,
Oh, yeah.
but I think that's enough of an intro. Without further ado, we're gonna bring on our guest of honor for tonight, Lisa Gabe.
Hi.
How you doing, Lisa? Thank you so much for
Hey,
joining us
Lisa.
here.
Well, thank you. How are you?
Doing great, and again, very very excited to get to chat with you here. Again, we know you from Mandalorian season 3. Very very cool looking, by the way.
Thank you.
I personally always loved that sort of like scar that was on your helmet. I thought, first of all, that made you stand out quite a bit, right? Which is very cool. But tonight we also want to talk about you, right? To get to know you a little bit more, and especially for the fans out there that might not be very familiar, because unfortunately we don't get to see you without the helmet, right? Or not
Yeah.
much. There's a couple of behind the scenes stuff that we'll talk about later on, but um, so can you tell us a little bit about yourself? So you've basically done it all. So what I'm curious is which one came first? Was it the acting? Was it martial arts? Was it the modeling? Like, or did they all sort of roll into one?
No, it was definitely martial arts first.
Nice.
I grew up doing martial arts. My dad had a school, so basically since I could walk until I was 16, and then I got a black belt, and then we moved and stuff. So I stopped around then, but I grew up doing martial arts. So
Wow, that's awesome.
Black
Yeah,
belt.
yeah.
Yeah. Don't mess with her either,
Yeah,
okay?
I was gonna
Just learn
say,
that.
yeah. If it wasn't bad enough that she's a Mandalorian, now you guys know why. No, that's awesome. And so did you feel that sort of made it a little bit more of a natural progression, right? When you're like, hey, did you gain interest in like acting first? Like, it's like, hey, I kind of want to be on stage.
um, so how I got into acting was I actually answered a Craigslist ad that was like,
No
"Do you
way.
want to be in a scary movie?"
That's awesome.
Luckily, yeah. Well, luckily I wasn't murdered, but it was a scam.
Well, you had your black belt, so you were
Yeah,
confident
exactly.
that.
Yeah, I was gonna say you were more prepared than most, I'm sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but they did send me to Central Casting, which is the main like background hub in LA and other cities. So that's how I got into acting, and then it was on like one of my first background jobs. Another mixed Asian actor was like, "Oh, there's an agency for people like us." So I went and joined an agency, and it was for modeling as well. And then once I started acting, I was like, I want to use like my martial arts too.
Sure.
That would be cool to combine. So I started doing fight choreo classes as well.
Wow. So it's kind of funny because a lot of the times you hear actors, right? Obviously get into the acting first, and then they're like, "Hey, you know what? I kind of want to try my hand at stunt performance, right?"
Mhm.
Whereas, and they obviously have to go through a lot of training, a lot of physical conditioning. Whereas you're like, you know what? I already know how to do all of this stuff, probably like way better than most. So
Actually, so fight choreo versus the martial arts I was trained in, I find like choreo to be really difficult because
Oh,
it's more showy for camera,
sure.
as opposed to being the smartest thing to do, like if you're like in the street or something.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
can see that.
so,
It's more
Yeah,
of a dance.
Yeah.
More right. So you're not trying to hurt the other person. You're trying to make it look like you did.
right.
So definitely, yeah, I could definitely see how that would be a little bit trickier if you have a strong background in combat, to where my goal is to neutralize my target. So yeah,
Exactly.
it definitely sounds like it could be a little tricky there.
Yeah.
Yeah, you go from finding the most efficient way, right, to finish the fight, to the most flashy way, right, to
Exactly.
perform.
Yeah.
Right. That's very interesting.
I haven't officially done stunts on camera or anything, just workshops and classes. And then my stunts on Mandalorian was someone named Jess, who is incredible and does all the cool stuff.
Really? Now, I gotta ask, were you like, I kind of want to do my own stunts, you know?
Yes and no. I don't know. Jess, who was incredible and was able to, I was actually hired later than
Right.
most of the crew. Yeah, I came in later. I wasn't part of the initial, so they had already done like filming before me.
Gotcha. So, which leads me to my next question is, can you tell us a little bit how that came about, right? Did your agent tell you, it's like, hey, you want to be a Mandalorian? You know, or was it all like, hey, you gotta go to this, super secret location. I can't tell you anything. Don't talk to anybody.
There was a bag on my head.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There'll be a script, but the script will self-destruct in 30 seconds.
Yeah.
Like that kind of stuff.
No, I through Central, I guess got contacted for my sizes, basically. So the initial character was made around someone else, but it didn't work out with them, and I matched the sizes, so they brought me in that way. Yeah.
That's a very similar story to one of the Vaders that was at RSC, Rebels Comic Con. He was actually working with Lucas Studio, got the phone call, and like, how tall are you? Why? Yeah. And then ultimately it led to him being Vader. So that's weird how that kind of works out. I recently saw that San Antonio was looking for background actors for a Spurs, just says NBA commercial, but there's only one team here. So I looked at it, and the same thing. They were asking, like, what's your body size, like your dimensions, and I was like, why do they need this for a commercial? Like, but again, costuming, props, you don't know what you're walking into.
Right.
So definitely interesting to hear that's kind of how you found your way in.
Yeah, and most of the bigger shows, most shows in general, they have a filming code name. So
sure,
when you're walking in, you don't know what it is unless you're, gossiping with other actors.
Right. Which I gotta imagine it's pretty tight-lipped around a Lucasfilm, production.
Yeah,
definitely.
Well, at those particular studios, now I know.
Yeah.
You know what's going down.
Exactly. Yeah. I would imagine it's got to be quite the experience, right? Initially, to be like, hey, we're gonna suit you up in an armor, which I think a lot of people will identify as soon as you see that helmet, right? And they're like, you can't talk about it, you can't post about it, you can't talk to the other people, so they probably just start giving you a litany of rules of like, hey, you can't do this, you can't do that,
Definitely lots of paperwork.
Let's say sign here, sign here. Real quick, are you able to tell us what the code name was for the filming?
I don't know.
Okay. That's all right. We'll just call it Buckethead people. That'll be good enough.
Yeah, there is a behind the scenes, right? I saw that you actually come out, in one of the shots without your helmet, which is awesome,
Yeah.
because again, unfortunately, the maybe the hard part, right, that you're like, yeah, I'm right there, but you don't know that it's me right there.
Yep.
Definitely.
While filming, right? Maybe once sort of like the initial, adjusting, right, and getting to know sort of what the dynamic is in that kind of shooting. Could you tell us what would you consider to be the fondest, memory that you got from your time on Mandalorian?
I would say maybe, well, one of them is probably the before we go rescue the kid,
Hmm.
we're like around a bonfire.
Yes.
Um, and I just shooting that scene, I feel like was one of my fondest because it's such like a intimate, small atmosphere, and so I get to be really close to a lot of people I admire and see them do what they do up close. I mean, behind a helmet, but like
Exactly.
close. And Carl was directing, and
Yes.
we try to like not be in the way, and do our best while like people that we really look up to do their thing and try to like learn from them. Yeah.
Absolutely. So I have here a little snippet of one of the episodes. Um, and so that's you front and center, and that's the great Carl Weathers, right? Grief Karga. So when he's giving kind of the speech welcoming the Mandalorians into Navarro, right? So yeah, I'd imagine that being some like in the presence of some pretty legendary people, right? It has got to be quite the experience. The Shriek Hawk trainers, I think that's the official title, right, of the subgroup that you belong to within the Children of the Watch. For those of you who don't know, by the way, the Shriek Hawk is actually where the symbol for the Dead Watch comes from, right? So that animal, that's the signet. So Lisa is like the OG within the OGs. In like the flip side of that coin, right? I'm sure it was a great experience to film, and again be in the presence of just amazing people like that. Or what do you think was also sort of like the hardest part of it?
The hardest part of being a Mandalorian is the jetpack. It's extremely heavy.
Really? Well,
Yeah,
it's got to carry a lot of fuel, right, for you guys to fly around. So
right. It's important.
Yeah. I was gonna say the other thing was gonna be because I learned this from the other guys, and I'm pretty sure the same for you. Y'all don't have fans in your helmets, so
some
filming.
some some people did.
oh,
Uh,
smart.
I know that there are fans in some of the helmets, but I wasn't one of the lucky.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Talking to Rory and Daniel, they both were like, "Yeah, we don't have fans in ours," and I'm like, "Yeah, I didn't have a fan in my helmet, so yeah, I know the pain."
Yeah.
Honestly, it's so hard to hear and see, but I can't imagine also having a fan going and trying to pay attention to what's around me. So maybe it was a blessing.
Very
Yeah,
true.
well, yeah, definitely. Because the way I'm thinking about it is like doing a con where I'm just taking pictures with people. Nobody's yelling at me like, "Hey, I missed my mark." Like, I'm just wandering around in the background. It's like, what's that guy doing? Like, So
Yeah.
yeah, I definitely get that. But yeah, man. I mean, seeing y'all on set, like, there's actual sun. That's not a like fake. Like that's real heat. I mean, y'all were chugging water, I imagine, or
Oh
maybe
yeah,
there was something
they were
else.
really great to us. When we were outside, there was generally a team of people ready to help us in between shots. Get them off and get us hydrated, and then like help us put them back on. So
Right.
we felt well taken care of.
That's good. Yeah, I can only imagine there's probably a whole army of people, right, doing that for well, for the Mandalorian army, right? So that's interesting. So the jetpack, did it just have a lot of metal like in it? Why do you think it was like that heavy?
Um, they, it's probably for the realness of it,
Right,
so that we are properly weighed down. The same
right.
as when you have a cup on set and there's liquid in it.
Sure.
It's generally not empty, so that you're not just
Yeah,
like wildly
very true.
gesturing.
So basically, so that people wouldn't be just dancing around with a jetpack, while on set.
So we look properly
Exactly. Yes,
exhausted.
there you go. I like that.
I think that's also something that we learned in Ghostbusters. They had multiple different
Yeah.
packs. They had like the real deal heavy one. They had the stunt one, which was more rubber, so if they got blown back, they wouldn't actually hurt themselves. But a lot of times they were wearing like actual weighted, I forget what they're called, but
Yeah, the
the back,
proton packs. Yeah.
I'm gonna get slaughtered by City of Geek on that one.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say the comments are gonna blow up now.
Yeah, whoops.
Yeah, we didn't. Stunts didn't have other, like, I fully shared with Jeff.
Wow.
So like it just was funny coming to set and seeing everybody, get their gear on and then be like, oh, you're broken. Like, to know
yeah.
that something had gone down, something really cool had happened, but also like, oh, we need some glue.
That's awesome. That's kind of nuts that y'all got to fully share gear. Hats off to the stunt performers, because yeah, that's gotta be rough, with all that extra weight. And
Yeah, they were
again, they just, like you said, right next to like no visibility. It's
Yeah.
kind of crazy.
Yeah.
So Mike and I were lucky enough to be invited to the very first Rebels Comic Con a couple months back, where we got to meet you in person, first of all, which was a total delight.
Oh.
But you mentioned that was your first convention, right?
Yes.
You want to tell us a little bit how that experience went?
It was really great. I didn't really know what to expect.
Sure.
And I was lucky in that basically everyone, all of the talent that was there were really nice.
Yeah.
And I got to ask everyone like a ton of questions, and everybody was patient with me, and like,
That's awesome.
I am a very curious person too, and so I got to be like, what are your favorite things about conventions? Like, sorry. I got to ask, like, what are your favorite moments at conventions? What were your favorite conventions in general? What was your least favorite? What are there ones that you wouldn't go back to?
Oh, there you go.
I got to ask, the ladies, like, did you ever feel unsafe at any?
Sure.
And
Yeah. Absolutely.
just it was very informative for me. And I feel like maybe I was a little bit spoiled at this particular convention, and maybe other ones won't live up to it, because I was also informed that most conventions that we go to are not going to be Star Wars based.
Specific.
So
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
won't have the same family
True.
or necessarily even the same genre. Then maybe it'll work differently, and I know that they worked really hard at this one to make
Yes.
us feel special, and they succeeded, and now I
That's
worry
great.
none will live up to it. I'll just go to my next one and be like,
Exactly. Right. So yeah, so did you get to ask the other people, is like, hey, is it normal that people ask me to sign babies? Like, is that just cool? Like,
They're like, yeah, but only on the forehead. That's the only place
exactly,
you can
right?
put it.
That's the only thing. And don't forget, use a Sharpie, right?
Yeah.
So that's awesome. Well, first of all, I'm very glad that you had a good experience,
Thank you.
because I think I speak for everybody here and everybody that's watching this. We want to see you at more of these. All right.
Oh, yeah,
So
definitely.
have you thought about maybe what will be your next one, or has somebody approached you yet?
I am with my agent, so I'll just wait. I think.
Gotcha.
Yeah. 'Cause
Do most of the bookings go through your agency? Like when somebody's looking to bring you onto a con, it's got to go through them, right?
Sure.
So
Yeah.
it doesn't necessarily work that way for the others.
Yeah.
But for me, because I'm so new, that's that's what makes me feel the most comfortable at this moment.
Yeah, and it
Uh,
makes sense.
that's why you're with them. That's your team to make sure you're not showing up
Exactly.
to back alley and you got to use your black belt. Like
Right.
Yeah,
that's
Right.
exactly. Yeah, gotta dust off the black belt right there.
Yeah, save it
Um,
for the screen.
yeah, there you go. Exactly right. So yeah, that makes perfect sense. And again, we really do hope that that you do more of these. We would love to see you here. By the way, here being San Antonio, um, because yeah, I think it was very cool. One thing that we've learned, right, talking to some of the actors and some of the stunt performers, etc., that worked on the shows, is that Lucasfilm does tend to be very recurring with their talent, right? So I know you probably can't talk about it, but I would not be surprised if we see you in the future, right, reprising the role, or maybe even a new role, right, on Star Wars, right? So
Right.
I think there's plenty more to come, right, for you and for us, to geek about with you at conventions,
yep.
right? So I think I really really hope that you get to do more shows like that. And so I'm very glad that we got to see you at your first one. We got to see you when you were like, I don't know if I like this. How does it feel to be part not just of the saga, but also be part of the merch for the saga?
Hmm.
It doesn't feel real. But it's really cool and an honor, obviously.
Absolutely. And I guess, did anybody sort of approach you and be like, hey, by the way, just FYI, we're going to create a little plastic version of you? Or was it just on, maybe like Instagram, somebody tagging you as like, hey, this is you, like, kind of thing?
Yeah. I think on set, I think props probably said something like to all of us, like you're in it now. It's gonna happen. All these things are gonna happen. But I did get tagged on Instagram, and that's how I found out about this.
Oh, really? That's awesome. This didn't come out in time for Rebels Comic Con,
Yep.
and man, it just felt like such a we're this close, which would have been perfect, right? We would absolutely love to have this. So this is part of a 2-pack, by the way, for those of you who don't know. Black Series, Shriek Hawk trainers. The female Mandalorian is of course Lisa's character. So, but this came out maybe like a month later, like or shortly after, right?
Yep.
Rebels Comic Con. So I was like, it's so close, but not quite there yet. But I'm sure you're gonna see these pop up a lot at whatever next event,
Next convention. Yep.
yeah. So
Well, she said she's bringing like 100 every time she shows up somewhere. So
I would too, man. Are you kidding me? Absolutely.
And with that, is there anything else like that? Like, do you want to make your like suit and just have it in the house? Like, is that something that you would display just somewhere randomly in the living room?
I probably would not.
You're
You're like
"Nah."
traumatized by it. Like, I don't want anything to do with that.
I don't need to wake up in the middle of the night and feel like
Yeah.
someone's lurking.
There you go. Yeah. You're like, nah, the 6-inch figure is fine. Like that's
Yeah.
that's
Good
where I
enough.
draw the line. That's awesome.
Do you have your helmet?
I was my friend Brittany made one.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, she's amazing.
That's perfect.
Yeah, I collect helmets and I try to get the little figure to go with them too. So
Yeah.
if you do get your figure, you put it right next to your helmet. It's gonna
Exactly.
look awesome.
Yeah, put the helmet on the figure.
There you go.
That's the big bobblehead. Yeah.
Yeah, right. Getting back a little bit, into like your earlier years, did you have, any sort of inclination, any sort of like favorite sci-fi, property that you watched, that you enjoyed, before of course becoming part of Star Wars?
I like all of them.
Really? Okay.
I like every universe that you can think of. I probably would be delighted to be a part of.
Wow.
I like Star Trek and Lord of the Rings and X-Men. No.
And all of those are booming. So
Yeah, I was
sky's the
gonna say.
limit right now.
Yeah, there you have it, troopers. We could see Lisa as the next Gandalf. You heard it here first. So which
Gandalf the
would be
Young.
exactly right. Uh, so that's awesome. So you were aware, right, of once you got the booking for the show, and you're like, all right, this is kind of a big deal.
Not when I got that booking. Maybe when I stepped onto set,
Oh, of
because
course.
you never, there's never like a script that they give you, and they're like, this is how much you're gonna be in it, or like, they're. I feel like they were kind of testing you out in the beginning, so
Sure.
I didn't set out to work as long as I did, but it ended up like extending and extending and extending. So
Okay,
yeah,
that's good though. That's good.
That's that's a good problem right there.
yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. That's definitely a good problem to have. Again, I don't know how much you can say, but I have to assume there's probably a bunch of stuff that was filmed, right? That maybe we didn't get to see, right? For like your character, or some of the other characters, obviously. I really don't have much doubt that we're gonna see you again. Is what I'm trying to say. But again, I know you can't officially say anything, but
I'm gonna forward this to some important people.
if you can have your pick, again, doesn't have to be Star Wars. We won't hold it against you. But which universe you think you would enjoy uh, playing in? More.
I can't think of a universe I would say no to.
There you go. That's a great answer right there.
I'm very open.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And yeah, hey, all of these properties are booming again, right? I mean, Lord of the Rings has a new movie coming out later this year. They got a TV show right now. X-Men, come on, there's nothing hotter right now than X-Men. So yeah, there you go. There's you heard it here first, folks. All right. Just when Lisa, is the new Doctor Who, is in Lord of the Rings, is in the next X-Men or Deadpool movie. You heard it here first. She was down for it. All right.
It's true.
So
Every successive announcement, I'm gonna then repost this podcast.
there you go. Perfect.
Perfect.
Hey,
Yep.
appreciate it. That's awesome. Do you have any upcoming projects that you can talk about? That you like to tell the fans here.
No.
Yikes! All right, I like it. I kind of like it. All right, so gotta
Oh, well,
keep it under wraps.
Are you able to talk a little bit about some of the classes and stuff that you've been recently taking? I know last time we chatted about it, you're like, I'm booked with classes that I'm doing.
Well, I just took a stunt clinic with Action Planet, which I highly recommend. And I take acting classes through Anthony Meindl's school.
I was about to say that's something that I don't think a lot of people really talk about is like
Right.
just like any skill or talent, you have to practice. You have to push yourself to the next level. It's not just walk on set and guess what? I'm an A-lister celebrity now. Give me my money. Like
Right.
you're actually putting the work in, and so I think I'm really hoping that gets out there more because I think I've got some young ones and they're like, I'm just going to be a YouTube star. And I was like, you got to do some work, buddy. Like you actually got to
no
go
kidding.
out there and do something. So my hat's off to you for that. And
Absolutely.
bravo for you continue to working on your craft. So that's always awesome to hear.
I love classes. I feel like even if I were, millionaire A-lister, I think it's important to keep expanding and trying different new things. So,
And you said you're
Yeah.
a curious person, so that's like perfect for you to go and just learn something different.
We lost Mike. The mouse got you. He's like, hey, stop talking about future projects. So again, I have no doubt in my mind that we're gonna see you in plenty other stuff. Going forward. So we're very much looking forward to it.
Super glad that you were able to make this happen, and it's been a total pleasure just chatting up with you.
but same. I am really happy to have had my first podcast.
Yeah, absolutely. Which is, I was talking to Mike backstage, and I was like, all right, you know what? I'm gonna look up maybe like a YouTube clip or something like that. That she has done before. There's not like an actual published, I guess, or podcast, interview. I was like, are we, no pressure by the way, but are we the first ones? Like, Like, wow. So all I can say is thank you so much for taking the time. Thank you for letting us get to know you again. And we hope that that this relationship with Lucasfilms continues, and that we get to see you many many more times. Hopefully sometime, maybe without the helmet, so that we get to be like, hey, we know her.
That is my goal as well.
Right? That would be pretty cool. Now, who knows, right? Maybe next season they're like, you know what, guys, we're gonna relax the rules. We're gonna, yeah, we're Mandalorians, but we're gonna take it down a notch, and everybody can take a breather. We're just gonna take off our helmets for 5 minutes, and then we're gonna put it back on. So, could happen, right?
Yeah. I'll be like, I wrote this scene.
Exactly, right. Thank you so much, Lisa. We
Thank
truly,
you.
deeply appreciate it. We wish you all the success in the world going forward. And, we can't wait to talk to you, maybe next year or maybe the year after that, and be like, you didn't tell us, you were doing all of this, right? So it's going to be definitely very, very fun. So thanks again to Mike for putting this together. Really appreciate it, brother. So thank you again, and we'll catch
Thanks
you on the
so
next
much.
one. So there you have it, troopers. That is Lisa's first podcast interview. Can you believe that?
Right. And it's crazy that we get to be the first ones and get to bring it to y'all. So that's pretty awesome.
Absolutely, and very very cool to get to talk to her about her experience, in Mando. And I gotta be honest with you, I'm pretty sure we're gonna see her again. Well,
I
see
mean,
her. It might be an expression because helmet,
yeah.
right? But
And
but I'm
we mentioned that, right? So once you kind of get your foot in the door with them, they kind of tend to use the same people. So we're gonna see her again in something. If it's not that character, it's gonna be something else. And I'm excited that we get to do that.
Yeah, absolutely, and she's great. She's very nice, and it looks like she's having a blast. Right, I was a little bit surprised to know that she's kind of into all the geek stuff. Right, I mean, she brought up Lord of the Rings, basically everything that's out there. Right, X-Men. I'm pretty sure we're gonna see her if it's not Star Wars for whatever reason. I think we're gonna see her in something else like geek
Oh yeah,
related.
definitely.
She was super nice, but I love that she has that sort of like work, ethic mentality of, hey, I need to keep honing my skill, right? Which is something that you don't see too much, or I should say maybe people don't talk about too much, right?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure there's a lot of actors out there that they've gone through the grinder doing the work, but we don't get to see that.
Yeah.
Even like behind the scenes type stuff, it's really not like showing a whole bunch of stuff as far as like actors learning lines, rehearsing. They may not be doing this stunt, but they got to lead into the stunt, so there's work that they got to do that. So there's a ton of work that goes into this industry, and I would love to see more people talk about
yeah.
like how they prepare, they work. Like I know there's like the method actors that get totally into characters, and that's a little sliver of it, but there's so many aspects of it. So yeah, definitely her work ethic is top notch.
Yeah, and I was surprised also to learn. You reminded me right now when you said the stunt acting is that they actually share, armor. That I would not have thought was a thing, because I mean, first of all, it's Lucasfilm, so they're not hurting for money, right? So I wouldn't
True.
think that they would cheap out on like, we can only have one set of armor for everybody, type of thing. So yeah, that kind of took me by surprise when she said that the stunt performer gets to wear the same armor, right? And then she comes in for more of like the still, or close up scenes and stuff like that, and it's the same armor. So I don't know. Again, that's not something I would have thought, would happen.
And
Maybe
it's
it's.
interesting for us to learn this stuff.
Oh
So
yeah.
we're learning it, y'all are learning it. So it's cool to do these type of things because we get more insight, more knowledge, and we get to enjoy it more.
But yeah, very cool. And I think it also helped that you and I got to meet her in person first
Yep.
at Rebel Scum Con. So we weren't just, I don't want to say strangers, but we weren't just like random people asking her to be on a podcast. We actually got to talk to her, which I should say technically you did the first interview, right? which,
Yep,
by the way,
I
troopers,
did get
go
the
check it
first.
out. It's on his channel, TheDadVader, like you see here on screen, over there on YouTube. Technically that's I think technically that takes the cake for first interview, out there for
First
Lisa Gabe.
interview at her first convention.
Yeah, very much so. Very much so. I like that she had a good experience at her first convention, speaking of, because I mean, you do hear some horror stories, right? Sometimes
Oh yeah.
that the fans went a little bit too crazy, or somebody overstepped their boundaries, or things like that, right? Seems like she's definitely willing to show up at other cons, right? So I hope that we get to see her sooner rather than later. Again, I think the fans would appreciate, getting to meet some of the people involved in some awesome scenes in one of our favorite shows, right? So I'm
For
glad,
sure.
like I said, I'm glad that there were no horror stories, for her first convention. That is gonna do it, guys. Thank you so much for checking this out. Very fun interview, like I said. I'm gonna go ahead and say we're the first long format, interview. There you go. So for a podcast. So maybe there's a prediction here and there within the interview that comes to fruition later on, and hopefully we get to talk to her about it, right? Again, when she's announced as the new Gandalf. Please don't forget to leave your like on this video. Subscribe if you haven't. Thank you so much if you already have. Please share the content with people you think would enjoy it, and don't forget to hit that notification bell so you know when we go live, when we post a community tab, when we drop a new video. Thank you so much, and this is the way.